Welcome back to another episode of Skybox Conversations, man, the Hoop Podcast, where we talk about all things hoops, more in particular about the Los Angeles Lakers. And on a college level, man, my favorite team when it comes to the Arkansas Razorbacks because it's Woo Pig Suey. I'm your boy, Will Z Titwell, man, and I'm super excited to be back with y'all, man. All-Star break coming up, it's gonna have about a week off from having games. The next game for the Lakers is until like the 19th, which is about what's that 5 days away now because it's Valentine's, all of that good stuff. But yeah, man, I just wanted to come in here and I wanted to kind of talk about some key things. Now that we're kind of at that midway point of the season, a little bit over midway point of the season, maybe roughly, what's that, 30 something games left, if that. Um, man, super eager to see what we look like coming out of that break, and what we can really do when it comes to that, man. But real quick, I want to ask a really, really important question. You know, even though Luca's debut was a little has been a little, his first two games of the Lakers have been a little shaky. We had this terrible loss to the Jazz, as we come to a break for All-Star break and all of that stuff. We all know that the Lakers have been rolling as of late, and they have you feeling really, really good about where we are. It's fifth seed right now, really could be a fourth, even a third if we would have pulled that game out against the Jazz. There's some other teams around the league that are rolling, that are doing their thing. I mean, it's a handful of them that's like they hooping, right? But if I'm being honest, and just from watching and just from knowing hoops and watching the game, there are only a handful of teams that I feel like the Lakers should be. The Lakers really have to have their fucking antennas up when we come to play them, right? Especially talking about playoffs, right? Like JJ got to coach his ass off. We got to have a hell of a game plan for these dudes. Like fear is a strong word, but you have to almost fear these couple of teams. And there are a few teams that you would think that we would need to fear and that we would need to, um, you know, that you would think would beat the Lakers. But I honestly feel like the Lakers can handle them pretty convincingly in my eyes. And that's just me being real. Um, and so what I want to do is I want to kind of break that down. Who are those teams? Who are those teams that the Lakers should fear? Who are those teams that the Lakers can't play with? Who are those teams that if you go in there bullshitting, you're gonna lose? And I think that's any team, right? But definitely these two or three that I want to mention. So the only team that the Lakers should fear, and what makes these teams the worst possible matchups for LA. So I want to start off with saying that you got to get over your kryptonite, and that's been the Denver Nuggets, and they are rolling right now. I mean, they are hooping. I think they done won like 8 in a row. Jamal Murray is reemerging as the dude that we saw win a championship. Man, he had like a 55-point game the other night. He had like 5 30-point games in the last six. I mean, he going off. You know what I'm saying? He had like 4 30-point games. Jokic doing Jokic things. Michael Porter Jr. still doing him. Eric Gordon still doing him. Their bench isn't great. Their depth isn't great. But with a great coach like that, sometimes you can work around those things, and they ride those stars in that core until the wheels fall off, rightfully so. Um, I think that kind of speaks for itself when you talk about why is that matchup a nightmare. I mean, it's Jokic. It's the two-man game of Murray and Jokic. It's knowing, it's one understanding how to stop that. How do you how do you make them look human? How can you kind of do a little bit of what Minnesota did really, really well last year and just kind of made them fall apart in that game seven or just over the course of that series, period, right? What does that look like? And I'm just not sure. I'm just not sure. Um, Man, that's gonna be a tough one. And again, I just think it's that simple. Aaron Gordon and his physicality. Now, one thing I do feel better about if we were to see like a Denver in the playoffs again is that this year, if we were to play them, when you got to do like Luca and then Austin is coming up into the guy he's becoming and things of that nature. I feel better about it because when an Aaron Gordon type of dude is guarding LeBron, who is your second option, and you had AD before, and he's having fits with Jokic, and then he got to score on the other end too. Is that if Aaron Gordon is giving hell to LeBron, I feel better about it because now it's like, all right, you putting your best defender, Aaron Gordon, on LeBron, but now who's going to guard Luca? Christian Brown, Michael Porter Jr. right? Do you bring in Peyton Watson? Probably. That's probably who's gonna get that matchup. All right, cool. Now who's guarding Austin? Jamal Murray. Now don't get me wrong. Austin or whoever else is gonna have to go guard Jamal Murray as well. That's just what that is. But I do feel a little more comfortable in saying that we're deep enough and have enough scoring threats to where it's like you can't load up on one person or load up on LeBron and just say, hey, be physical with him and make it hard on him. Jokic, you're gonna do what he do and make AD work, and we got a great chance. Like Mike Malone gonna have to coach his ass off too. You know what I'm saying in that regard. So I feel a little bit better about that. But again, that is a bad matchup because we lack size. I think we can be physical. I think we can do that, but we lack size. Who can guard Jokic on our current roster at the big position? I think he'll put Jackson Hayes in a blender. I think he'll dog Alex Lynn. He'll treat that man like a stepson back in Slovenia or wherever he's from. I'm scared of that. So that's number one. Another matchup that I really would be worried about is a healthy Mavs team. A healthy Mavericks team is scary because I think you saw glimpses of what they could be when AD played in that game with Houston, even though they ain't even had the whole team in. They showed glimpses of what they could be. I mean, think about how large their front court is, bro. You got AD, you got Gafford, you got Lively, you got PJ Washington at 6'10. Like that alone is huge. Then you got Kyrie, Dante Exum hooping. Then you got uh um um he came from man, what's his name? He came from New Orleans, man. The big that they replaced Derrick Jones with, um, Derrick Jones Jr. with, man. It's on the tip of my tongue. Bringing him in, like they have some crazy length and size. And then you got Kyrie, who was a closer and a bucket at any given time. That's a scary team to have to see. And again, why? Because of size, because of the length at the rim, because of having to guard them, but also how they can protect the rim. And that's a big part of our identity when we love to get downhill and get to the free throw line. I'm worried about that. And last but not least, the Celtics. Um, Championship team, shoots a lot of threes. Can we match that? Porzingis is a matchup problem. The depth they have at the wing position, I think we can kind of match up with that part, right? We talking about Vando and Dorian Finney-Smith and Rui. Um, I think we can match up in that regard. I'm not too much worried. We got Braun. I'm tripping. Luca. So I feel good about it, but I think it all comes down to again the size of those three teams I just mentioned, and in particular for the Celtics, the 3-point shooting of that team. Um, how does that look? And I'll even go further and throw in one more team as kind of a wild card. Like depending on what version of them shows up, they might be a problem too, and that's the Cleveland Cavaliers. And I'll say that solely because of Evan Mobley being an all-star. They've unlocked the new version of him, and if you can get him to bring that same game to the playoffs, particularly against a Laker team, if that was to ever happen, what does that look like? Because they have a lot of size too. If you're being honest, you got Jared Allen and you got Evan Mobley. That's damn near that's just 2 7-footers, and Evan Mobley got guard like skills. That could be a matchup nightmare, for us in that regard with the current as constructed roster, unless we're gonna go heavy, wings on the court, def lineup type of stuff like we talked about in a couple of episodes before. So yeah, but I don't really trust the Cleveland Cavaliers because of you don't know what version of Evan Mobley is going to show up because of Darius Garland being so small, and you can really make him, you can give him fits. And he's a big part of why they're so successful. Donovan Mitchell gonna get his, but it's kind of like if your game plan is, all right, let's let Donovan Mitchell get 50, and everybody else got to work their ass off. But I will say this too: another reason I'm kind of worried about them is going to get DeAndre Hunter. That was a great pickup for them. That was a great pickup for them. He's going to make them so much better. He's already making them so much better. And doing some great things for them. So I'm a little worried about him too. So in that regard, it's like, huh? What do we do? Right? And so we got to see what that look like. But when you talk about what makes those teams the worst possible matchup, the size, the shooting, um, the matchup problems. And if we can figure those things out and overcome that, which is a big if, but it's possible, but it's a big if, especially with the size part and the lack of bigs in high level bigs that we do not have. That's a lot to ask of a Jackson Hayes, of a Alex Lynn, of those type of people. It's a lot to ask of Vando and Dorian Finney-Smith and those guys to have to play the five and try to guard these dudes. That's a lot to ask. And so that's a little bit to worry about. Now, on the flip side, why are some of these teams that are dominating in the regular season that I'm not really worried about? Let's talk about that real quick. Because what about the young teams? Teams like the Rockets, the Grizzlies, and the Thunder. Um, why can't we really trust them yet? Why do we why is it that they have these 50 game win seasons, but it's like when you get to the postseason, or even when you're talking about playoff contention and winning the whole thing, we don't talk about them like that, even though they kicking ass. I think the reason why I just kind of go down the list. The Rockets, I think they're still a piece or two away when you talk about winning the whole thing. I think they're in the right path. Got a great coach. He has turned that franchise around tremendously, but they're still missing a few things from just being that real deal. Can beat anybody. Can win 7 games. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, they're still missing a couple things. Like, I think they just still need like a true vet that can go get a bucket whenever he wants to. Jalen Green is getting there, but sometimes he still takes bad shots. Shingun is getting there, but sometimes it's like he's a little fragile. You know what I'm saying? Like, he kind of soft with it, be all that flopping and shit. And he ain't got a great outside shot. It's stuff like that. You still need a bona fide dude where it's like, give me the fucking ball. Let me get busy. And there's been rumblings of a dude like Kevin Durant going to that team. If you go get Kevin Durant and you can keep Jalen Green and Shingun intact, and you can keep Fred Van Fleet at the starting point, and you can keep some of your bench, you probably have to give up like Tyree Eason. I mean, excuse me, you might have to give up like Jabari Walker. I'd have to give up Eason because I think Udoka really likes him. But you might have to give up like Walker. You might have to give up probably Holiday and some, and some capital and some assets and stuff like that. But probably it's gonna be a haul for sure for KD. But you go get a KD, now we cooking. Now it's a whole different story. Even though KD has kind of like made himself not seem as impactful when it comes to winning championships without Steph Curry, you still give them a higher chance. Excuse me. Grizzlies. I think the reason you can't really take them serious is, one, they just never seem to be able to get over the hump when they get to the postseason. And history has shown that. Two, Ja doesn't quite look like Ja, if that makes sense, right? Like, before all the suspensions and stuff. Not saying he looks hurt or anything. I think it just seems like Jaren Jackson Jr.'s team. This is his team right now. Desmond Bain is not quite connecting the way he normally would when from a points per game type of average type of thing. So it's just kind of like y'all downslide, but y'all still winning. Still one of the top teams in the West. But a lot of that is Triple J, and the reason why he's an All Star. I just don't see them getting over the hump. If I'm being honest, I don't think, and I also don't think they have enough depth, and off the bench. When you talk about that as well, they can beat anybody, of course, but 7 games, strategizing just for you is different. And I know Ja's a bona fide superstar. I'm not taking that away from him. I know he can get it going. I think he's deferring a lot because Triple J got it going so much. And you got to get Desmond Bain involved. And you got to let Edie eat a little bit. And you got the new rook over there, Jalen Wells. You got to let him eat a little bit. So he's distributing and doing this thing. But it's also like, Ja, it's still your team now. You know what I'm saying? You 1A, Triple J 1B, and Desmond Bain 1C, and that balance got to get back. He got to be more aggressive. That's just what that is. Thunder, I just think they got to grow up a little bit more. I think OKC really just has to grow up a little bit more. Um, they can beat anybody. Prime example, they was down 10 the other night to Miami, and they went on a 24-0 run. Like, shit like that. Like, well, they can beat anybody at any given time. They can catch fire. Shea is crazy. You know what I'm saying? Chet is getting back in the rhythm of things. They went and addressed the problem with the big in Hardenstein. They got the shooting. The benches and all of that great, but I think they have enough. But it's just like when you get there, they just still show signs sometimes of being young, immature. in the decisions they make. And people kind of got on Draymond Green ass when he said, I don't take OKC seriously because they aren't a serious team. In part of you, like, come on, man, they kids, they having fun. I get that, and that's true. But the other half is like, if you talking about championship, all that playing and bullshitting and laps and having these mental breakdowns, that can happen. And they seem to do that a lot and just real playful. And I think they can come back to bite them in the ass. And so even though these are some of the top teams in the West, I think the Lakers can beat these three teams convincingly, if I'm being honest. 4-1, 4-2 type shit. And two is being nice. I think it'll be close games. I don't think we'll just blow them out. I think they'll give us a run for our money. But I think talent for talent, roster for roster, um, you know, game for game, we can beat these dudes 4-1, 4-2 max. I think out of the three, the Thunder will probably give us the most trouble again because they have size as well. But Chet is real frail. Hardenstein is an outside threat. Chet is. So with the right chess moves, JJ coaching his ass off, it's very possible that we can dominate these three teams. I really feel that way. Now, is another question I kind of wanted to ask. Which one of these teams do you feel like could give you the most trouble in the near future, like a next year, 2 years from now type of thing? If I had to say, it would be the Thunder because I feel like eventually experience is going to become their best friend and they're going to get over that hump. But a close second is going to be the Rockets. Because again, if you go get one or two most like one, you go get you a superstar, a vet that can teach Jalen Green how to be a superstar, can teach Alfred Shangoon how to be a superstar. Those two teams become very, very, very even more scary than what they already are. And so I really wanted to just come in here and talk about that because I'm like, there's only a handful of teams that I'm really just like afraid of when it comes to the matching up, especially with Luka now. And the ones that you would think that we would be afraid of, I'm not really. I think we can beat them. And so I want to know what y'all think about that, man, because I know it's a very controversial thing to say, but that's just how I feel about it. And so would love to hear from y'all, man. And that's gonna conclude this episode right here of Skybox Conversations, man, because hey, that's what we do, man. We talk hoops on this player, man. I appreciate y'all so much. I love y'all and see y'all next time. Peace.